the Ukraine war has pitted Ukraine and its Western allies on one side and Russia on the other side. Like every war, it is very, very tragic. The victims are the young people who die, also the old people, but usually the military dead are young, and their families. It's just simply terrible when these wars happen. So, what's the plan to win the war? Now, the phrase existential threat is tossed around by people who want to say that this war is necessary. And, that begs the question, what is the real existential threat? And if you can overcome the real existential threat, then you would have won the war. Okay, so let's see what is, what people say could be victory. And okay, so let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, one of these two things happen. Okay. Ukraine regains Crimea and returns to its pre-war borders. So let's say what it had before 2014. So that's one possibility. The other is that Russia annexes all the 4 oblasts which it has declared its intention to annex, also reaches Odessa and cuts off Ukraine from the Black Sea. So these are sort of two alternatives, and each side would say, yeah, if we got this, then we would be victorious, and the other side would say, if we got that, we would be victorious. Okay, so neither of these address the existential threat that these countries face. This is short-term thinking. It's incorrect because it's short-term thinking. The short-term thinking is unimportant. It's the long-term which matters. The question is, what is short-term? What is long-term? Okay, so the question is that exactly when we are planning our actions and we are thinking, okay, this is where we want to be, and then whatever we plan, the question is that how far out are we looking at the results? Okay, so what exactly are we trying to achieve? And if you look at the these definitions of victory, that's probably in the next 5 to 10 years. That's where these two sides want to be. Okay, but in I also talk about this thing, the correct time horizon for decisions. There is a section in my book, the correct time horizon for decisions is in this book, and what I point out is that the correct time horizon for decisions for a community or a society or a nation should be 60 years. So, which is to say that the plan which they have for the future should not be 5 to 10 years, where the country is going to be 5 to 10 years. It should be 60 years. And why 60 years? Well, again, it's explained in the book. But let's just kind of a brief preview. 60 years is about 2 generations long. So it's gives you sufficient time to plan and achieve the important goals. Okay. Plan and achieve the important goals. You can't achieve the important goals in 5 years or 10 years. So 60 years is a time horizon, and it's not too long because, when you start with the plan, you want to kind of see like how the plan is progressing. If you say, "Oh, I have a 500-year plan," then you'll say, I don't know what happened. 10 years later, you'll say, did we make any progress? I don't know. There's like 490 years left. After 50 years, you'll say, maybe we are getting where we want to be. Maybe we are not. So 500 years is too long. 5 to 10 years is too short. The correct time horizon for a community or a society or a nation is 60 years. That is how you should plan. You should make your plan about where you want to be. Think of the things which could happen in 60 years and where you would want to be after 60 years. And of course, as the years go by, you update that plan, right? So after 10 years, you have a new idea of where you want to be in 60 years. So which is actually would be 70 years from the time when you had your first the previous 60-year plan. Okay. Short-term thinking is disastrous. There are numerous instances of nations entering into disastrous wars because they felt they had to act quickly and waiting. Actually, when they should have waited. And I'm talking about wars, and ideally we don't want any wars at all. We want planning for something much more important than victory in wars. And what is that? Well, what is the real existential threat? It's the demographic bust. The demographic bust is driving these countries to extinction. Remember, in my book, I talk about how long humanity can exist, and that turns out to be 1 trillion years or more. And I talk about how far can humanity expand, and that turns out to be we can colonize the solar system, we can colonize our galaxy, we can also colonize other galaxies. The numbers are worked out in this book, okay? So this is not science fiction, it's real science. The numbers are worked out based on our current knowledge of science. It is not some fancy like, oh, we are going to kind of make a faster than light travel. So the number of future humans is a huge number, far beyond what we can think of. That's like, I can't remember the number, but I think it's like something like maybe 10 to the power 30 future humans. It's in the book. Now, if the demographic bust is not reversed, there will be no future humans. Okay, that is the existential threat. Demographic bust is. Now, all these countries in the war and other countries around the world are mostly all terminal cultures. And if they are not terminal cultures, there are any communities which are not terminal cultures, they are headed towards becoming terminal cultures. What is a terminal culture and what is a stable culture? It's there in this book. Okay, so, but you get the idea. Okay. Now, if you want to kind of have visual representation of how these countries are terminal cultures, you can look at the population pyramids. So in a population pyramid, if the, an ideal population pyramid should be, if a community is not, or a nation is not declining, it should be broadest at the bottom and then gradually slope up, because that is stable, because there is some amount of mortality in every generation. The mortality initially is very low, so initially the shrinking as you go up is slow, but of course when you get to like 80, 90, it becomes sort of kind of rapid. Okay. So let's look at the population pyramid of Ukraine. And you can see that the bottom is falling sharply. The population of Ukraine is declining sharply. Instead of being gradually, like a stable culture would be gradually increasing as you go further down, instead it's shrinking quite rapidly. Germany, also very involved in this war. They are also shrinking, not as rapidly, but still they are headed towards extinction. Russia, also shrinking, quite rapidly. All these are terminal cultures. Okay. Some of them are going to be near extinct in 100 years. Some of them will be near extinct in 200 years. It's not really much to choose between them. Okay, so these countries are terminal cultures and they're fighting a war. What is that like? You go into a cancer ward, okay? These patients have cancers. And what do? They're not trying to cure themselves of their ailments. Instead, they're throwing whatever they can lay their hands on. They're throwing shoes at each other. They're throwing bowls of soup. It makes no sense. All sides of this war can be victorious. To be victorious, one needs to fix the demographic bust. You don't need the other side to lose to be victorious. Everybody can win. Do I care more about a Russian than I care about a Ukrainian? No. Do I care more about a German than I care about an American? No. Each human life, like I say in my book, is very, very, very special. The universe was created in a manner which brought forth these human lives. Everybody should win. Nobody should lose. Okay, so what is the plan for victory? What we need for the plan for victory is we need to get over this population bust. Okay. And governments are aware of this, and they try to reverse the population decline. And what do governments know? I mean, how do they go about things? Well, the obvious thing that they do is that they give economic incentives to get to whatever they want to happen. That's the way they think, because they're not very imaginative. They don't really understand the problems, what the issues are. So they address it the way, we're going to spend so much of money trying to fix this problem, right? No, it's not going to work. This is a much more important problem. It's a much more difficult problem to solve than the government just throwing some money at it. If you look at Germany, at a point, the German, you see, if you look at this 10-year-olds, and this is back in 2020, so this would have been back in 2010. So for a while, the number of babies being born in Germany did reverse. It started getting more, which is needed for a stable culture, that lower rows should be broader. And again, it's gone back to the same. That's because to reverse it, what we require is a plan for life which is attractive to the young, and that plan for life has to include families. If there is no plan for life that is both attractive to the young and also includes families, then we are not going to reverse the population bust. So we need a plan for life. Some of it is in my book. The rest of it is going to be in my forthcoming book, Nature Ternary. And we need changes at the community level and also at the individual level. At the individual level, we require a plan for a life that is attractive to the young, and it includes families. At the community level, the community needs to provide an environment which is conducive to relationships and the formation of families with children. If you have a job and you don't have job security, you're much less likely to, like, you may even be earning a high amount and you may be able to afford children and to give them a decent life, which doesn't include luxuries, but a decent life. But however, if you feel that your work is not stable, that it is risky, that you may experience a decline in income, you are not going to want to invest in a future with families. That is the truth. So at the community level, at the societal level, at the national level, what you need a change in the economics. You need to provide stable work which takes away this feeling of insecurity. That's just one thing, okay? The second thing is you can't have consumerism. This entire idea that the meaning of life is to get to the next higher standard of living works against children. Okay? Because there's always the next higher standard of living, and then children become a sort of an interference to that goal. So you can't have consumerism. You have to balance your desire for consumption of goods with a desire for human relationships, for doing your duty to future generations. So all these have to be part, and these actually are part of the best possible life. Consumerism has exploded because all the time we are being exposed to this message that if we buy something, we'll be happier. But it doesn't work, because you may buy all the things, but if you don't have good human relationships, there'll still be a part of your life missing, which is not going to get you anywhere close to your real possible life. You will not feel like you've done your duty. Okay, so those are parts of the meaning of life. And again, victory will be whoever understands or gets the right meaning of life.